wasn't completely off the track. Lando Norris on board now with Sebastian Vettel.
I think it was when Vettel went past Norris, he gave him a whole lot of room.
Well, the stewards were asked to have a look at the Norris and Raikkonen incident, but they decided no investigation was necessary on that one, and it certainly wasn't. Look at that, Lando's looking from side to side in his mirrors once again. Look, Verstappen's a lot closer on this particular occasion.
I need more power, mate. Just slipping a lot.
Old message, because I think he's got enough power, and he has, into turn 3. That'll please the Dutch crowd here.
And because he was behind at the detection point still, he still maintains the rear wing open look on the Red Bull.
Bit of a double whammy there for Max Verstappen. And getting the benefit of the DRS to ease him ahead of Lando Norris as he drops now down into turn 6. Those are the Max Verstappen grandstand. We'll see what's happened. They'll rise to their feet on cue and give him a massive cheer, and they're prepared to do that for another 64 laps of this afternoon's race.
Next up the road, Kimi Raikkonen for Max Verstappen to pass. Ferrari engine, of course, in the back of that Alfa Romeo. But Verstappen is already, I guess, he's going to be about 14 seconds off the lead when he comes round here as we enter lap 8.
His bonus, of course, is that he can go a bit longer than the the 2 cars ahead of him, because they're running the soft compound tyre. But for how much longer, and will it actually make a strategic difference to him? Let's go down to Karun Chandok.
Well, I think the one to watch out for is Sebastian Vettel now, Crofty, because he's got clear air past Raikkonen, as you mentioned before. 5 seconds now between him and Lewis Hamilton. But we're 7 laps in, and this is where we expected to start to see a crossover between the medium being quicker. Last time round, Vettel 3/10 slower than the 2 Mercedes drivers.
Thanks ever so much, Karun. Kimi Raikkonen under pressure at the moment from Max Verstappen, running in 5th place. And whilst we're watching this, Kevin Magnussen might just be keeping his fingers crossed and sweating a bit more than everyone else in these excessive temperatures, because he's under investigation for being out of position at the start.
So he could be to one side of his pit box or in the wrong pit box, but that's normally trouble.
Yeah.
Because if it gets flagged up, it means you're nowhere near where you should be.
I tell you what is trouble for Magnussen, though. He started 10th, Martin. He had a decent first couple of laps, and now he's starting to drop down the field once again. I wonder if this is a usual occurrence on a Sunday. Haas struggling with overheating on their tyres. Gunther Steiner was explaining it to me. He's like, we're burning, he said, the surface of the tyre to a crisp, but it's stone cold in the middle, like a very badly done barbecue beef burger, as Verstappen has Raikkonen in his sights towards turn 3, under braking. Who's prepared to break the latest? Max Verstappen is. Kimi Raikkonen didn't put up much of a fight for the second lap running. Verstappen makes a place at turn 3, and he's now got the DRS once again to pull clear of the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, the Iceman gave Verstappen the whole freezer to himself there.
Karun, down to you.
Yeah, Crofty, you know, you're talking about Haas and the tyre issues. Romain Grosjean's been on the radio to the team, they just told me, saying it feels like it's raining. He's got so little grip. Except it's not raining here, it's baking hot. But last time round, Grosjean and Magnussen in the high 1:12.8 for Grosjean, 13.0 for Magnussen. That's nearly 2 seconds, 3 seconds, guys, slower than the people, you know, in the middle of the top 10.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons Carlos Sainz has just passed Kevin Magnussen as well. He's up to 14th now as he makes his charge from the back of the grid, and we watch Sebastian Vettel in a beautiful place at the moment, Martin Brundle, and lots of track to himself to pound those lap times in.
Yeah, now it's about remembering this is a 71 lap race as we move into lap 10. So let's just take a note of this. Verstappen in P5, 14.5 seconds off the lead. Leclerc leads Bottas by 2.6 seconds. So it'll be very interesting now to see Verstappen's relative pace to the leaders and whether he can haul this back in later on.
That is Alex Albon on the inside, Romain Grosjean on the outside and off the track, and that's Alex Albon making a move into 16th place. Grosjean's going to come back at him though, or he's going to try and come back at him, but I think the Toro Rosso's a bit too far ahead. And look, there's George Russell trying to make a move on Romain Grosjean at turn 3 as well. The Williams getting very competitive with the Haas as they run down hill towards turn 4. DRS for Romain Grosjean behind Alex Albon. They're wheel to wheel through turn 4. Grosjean locks up his brakes. Alex Albon continues to move on in 16th place. And there's Danny Kvyat now attacking George Russell coming out out of that corner. What a brilliant scrap. It might be out of the points, but this quartet giving it absolutely everything.
If the midfield were for the championship, we'd be on the edge of our seats every corner. Last chance saloon, desperate stuff going on out there, and great racing.
Meanwhile, out in front, Charles Leclerc leads Bottas and Hamilton. We can go down to the Red Bull pit wall. Christian Horner, sum up your emotions, Christian, in the first 11 laps of this race.
Yeah, frustrated at the start. Unfortunately, we got an anti-stall, so we got a really tardy getaway. So now it's about trying to recover and make these tyres work for us. So Max has cleared the traffic now of Raikkonen and Norris, so head down, try and get on to Vettel ahead.
Just take us through, he was referring to clipping and what you've been able to do for him out there.
Yeah, that's all to do with the way that the energy recharges and, of course, where they use the energy on the lap. So he's now in a sustainable running mode. So obviously that's now balanced out over the course of the lap rather than using all the energy in one part of the circuit.
Thanks ever so much, Christian. Back to you in a little while. Romain Grosjean was 4th here last year, and he is back up ahead of Alex Albon for the time being.
And we are going to plan A.
And out of the points at the moment, but at least he's got that place back once again. We're on board with Lando Norris. Norris behind Kimi Raikkonen and getting a bit closer as well. Right, so Sky Race Control. Paul de Resta, what have you got for us?
Yeah, Crofty, I mean, the Ferrari drivers have been absolutely coached exactly how they are. They've got no temperature issues, even Vettel. But the Mercedes, they're in trouble with rear right tyre temperatures right on the limit, and they're having to do so much lifting coast already from lap 2. It was 150 metres, then 200 metres, and up to 300 metres. So they really are up against it. If they even get closer, I think they're going to struggle. So Ferrari maybe going to get away with this soft tyre at the moment.
I would imagine they're going to get closer, Martin, but get closer to Sebastian Vettel at this rate, who, if he's not lifting and coasting, can break that much deeper and gain that much more time.
Absolutely, and a poor start for Verstappen really gave Leclerc free run into the first corner. They're taking the line. He built a 3.7 second lead. He can now control the race as he wants.
Look at this. I've just got to point this out. Average track temperature, Martin, 39 degrees here, and we're running in the upper 50 degrees at the moment. So just for people back at home thinking, well, why are they suffering with tyre wear? Why are things overheating? It's because they're running about 20 degrees more than the average temperature.
Indeed, so Magnussen's got a drive through for being out of position at the start, having just made a pit stop to put the hard tyres on. So he's going to have to just go through the pit lane at 80 kilometres per hour, 50 miles per hour. It's going to cost him about 17 seconds.
Yeah, it's another day of pain for Kevin Magnussen and the Haas team, isn't it? Lando Norris, 1 year old, when Kimi Raikkonen first made his Formula One debut at the A1 ring, as it was back then. Here in 2019, they are racing together, and Norris is keeping Raikkonen very honest indeed. Just has to lift off a little bit through turn 6, nowhere to get past there. But it's experience against the exuberance of youth, this one. And it's a terrific little scrap that is boiling up very nicely indeed. And it's a very close battle. Unlike the battle for the lead at the moment, 4 seconds, the gap between Leclerc and Bottas. Paul, to you.
Yeah, Leclerc's just asked, tell me when I can start pushing. He's controlling this race at the moment.
Target lap time 10.0. It's good like this.
Well, we've just heard it as well. And we had this was a feature at Paul Ricard last week as well, wasn't it, Martin, with Leclerc just saying to the team, come on, I want to go faster than this. I need to go faster than this, and I can go faster than this. The team having to kind of put the reins on a bit as Norris dives down the inside on Kimi Raikkonen, and Raikkonen gives him space. Compromised a little bit in terms of his exit, now under pressure from Pierre Gasly, but did the safe thing there and avoided any contact between the two drivers. Lovely move by Lando Norris, did absolutely nothing wrong there. And I'd like to see that one again and again on the Sky pad.
Yeah, Norris committed to that overtake. It wasn't half-hearted like you can get sometimes in a football or rugby tackle. He really went for it, and that's what you have to do. And that's Magnussen then. He's gone beyond the yellow line where his right front tyre should be. So actually, he's, look, right on the front edge and fractionally still in his box.
Could he have reversed at that stage?
No, you can't reverse on the grid.
Right.
No, you cannot start looking for a reverse on the grid. You're in big trouble.
So basically, as soon as he'd gone over there, it was a bit of a slam dunk. He was going to get the penalty. And
it wasn't to one side or the wrong slot completely.
Yeah.
He just went... I thought as long as you didn't have relative movement, you were okay if you were still within the white box. But maybe from another angle, he was a bit outside the box.
The rear view from Kimi Raikkonen's Alfa Romeo. That's Pierre Gasly under brakes there, getting very close indeed. Nice late on the brakes, Pierre Gasly. Karun, down to you.
Yeah, just been watching Sebastian Vettel's pace, guys. You were talking about the lift and coast Mercedes need to do. Vettel steadily taking 2 or 3 tenths out of those drivers now. The lead, Hamilton over Vettel, just over 3 seconds. So he's taken 2 seconds out of him from the last 5 laps. He's getting there. He's chipping away at it.
So the Mercedes, Martin, on that medium tyre, having problems with overheating. Is that the sort of information that might influence those at Ferrari and those at McLaren and Alfa to go onto the hard tyre for their next stint rather than put those mediums on?
It may well do. I would imagine Ferrari will hope to run longer, see somebody else. We've seen Magnussen go out on them, but he's got a drive through. So the only man on hard at the moment is Magnussen. They'll hope they can see a few more out there and get a bit of intel on what might be going on. But Leclerc at the moment clearly has got all the pace he needs to control the race and get as far as he can. Mercedes are not pushing him. They can't push him and overstress his red mark soft tyres.
Lewis Hamilton saying yesterday in qualifying, we haven't got the Ferrari pace on the main straight. We're not quick on the main straights at all, or on the straights whatsoever. And Raikkonen's got DRS as he bids to reclaim 6th place from Lando Norris. And Valtteri Bottas has stopped now to about 3.7 seconds behind the race leader as Lewis Hamilton locking up going into turn 4. And what happened, I wonder, at turn 1 as well? Just straddling that curb a little bit, but it's flat enough so you don't lose time by doing that.
Yeah, you can hear the amount of torque that he's demanding to accelerate towards turns 2 and 3 as this transmission bounces. Incredible amount of energy going through there.
Max Verstappen has just set the new fastest lap of the race, at 3 tenths faster than the race leader Charles Leclerc's last lap as well. Blue flags are being waved for Kevin Magnussen. He's had his drive-through penalty and is the only one of the drivers to be lapped so far. In the opening stages of this race, we're on lap 17 of 71. It's looking pretty good, isn't it, for Charles Leclerc at the moment?
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on Magnussen's time. As I mentioned, Verstappen was 14.5 behind when he cleared the traffic.
Yeah.
He's still 14.3 behind, despite that new fastest lap.
Medium tyre, Lewis Hamilton in 3rd place at the moment. He's been 1st or 2nd in every race so far this season. He's got some work to do to try and keep that particular run going, and once again into turn 1 he's really struggling to keep that car to the right hand side of that yellow curve.
Yeah, the twisting forces going through your transmission and drive shafts there is quite high, to say the least. There'll be a few people in Brackley, where the team are based, watching this behind a pillow, I'd imagine.
And push hard, but doing well.
Sebastian Vettel looking for his 50th podium for Ferrari this weekend. He's 1 spot off the podium places at the moment. Turns 32, of course, next Wednesday with dearly love a storming drive from 9th on the grid to a podium finish as we ride on board now in the Red Bull of Pierre Gasly. Kimi Raikkonen may be starting to struggle on his tyres because Gasly has reeled in the Alfa Romeo on this lap, pulls out from behind the rear wing of Kimi Raikkonen. Brake dust coming off the front right tyre of that Red Bull as he slams on the brakes into turn 4. Neatly done there by Kimi Raikkonen to keep that Alfa ahead of the Red Bull.
Yeah, Gasly was always going to be driving into a wedge, a disappearing wedge there. Looking at the tyres on the Red Bull of him, anyway, they don't look particularly good, it must be said, as Vettel now goes fastest, as they're now beginning to use the full potential of the fuel and tyres that they have.
Karun Chandok, as we watch this replay, down to you.
Yeah, Gasly had a good go around the outside. Didn't quite work for him, did it? As you said, Martin, the Ferrari driver is able to use the pace. Bottas last time round, 7 tenths. slower than anything that Vettel had on that last lap. So that's a massive delta between the two drivers. Just thinking about the tyres, to answer your question, on Friday, Ferrari were not quick on the hard tyre. They've kept a set of a new set of mediums and a new set of hards, so they have got options. Mercedes don't have another new set of mediums, so we know Mercedes are probably going to go to the hard tyre. Ferrari could go either way because they do have a new set of each.
This time Pierre Gasly tries to go down the inside of Kimi Raikkonen at turn 4, and once again Kimi Raikkonen is having none of that whatsoever, and is keeping the Frenchman at bay. It's the battle for 7th place at the moment. It's allowing Lando Norris to start pulling clear of Raikkonen.
So Magnussen doing a 1:10.1, running last, but on the hard compound tyre, which seems pretty handy. Just dropped back to a 10.4 now. He's in free air, so he's nothing to distract Magnussen's lap time. It suggests to me the hard tyres working just fine.
In terms of hard tyres, they've all got a brand new set of the hard tyre. Verstappen, Hamilton and Bottas have no new sets of the medium tyre left if they wanted to run a medium tyre again, if it was a two-stop strategy. In terms of soft tyres, Vettel's got 2 new sets of soft tyres if he was on a two-stop strategy. Verstappen has got a brand new set of the soft compound tyres available to him should he want it, and should those mediums hold up long enough to make that one stopper work. See how it all unfolds. We're only on lap 20 of 71 here. Robert Kubica coming into the pits now for Williams. Worth pointing out that Kubica's been the recipient of the fastest 3 pit stops, or fastest pit stop at each of the last 3 races. Well done to Williams. They had a sub-2-second pit stop in Paul Ricard. There they go. Practice makes perfect, and they all look very pleased with their efforts as Kubica gets back out onto the track.
So Vettel is catching both Mercedes little by little, quarter of a second per lap coming out of them. Now 8.8 seconds off the lead, 2.6 seconds off Hamilton's gearbox.
There's a few helmets going on from the pit crew. I wonder if they're getting ready and getting pumped up for their first stops down at Mercedes, as Lewis Hamilton once again straddling that curve at turn 1. And he's not gaining time by doing that, Martin. Look at the state of that right rear tyre as Gasly returns for another go at Kimi Raikkonen.
Gasly's got to go down the right-hand side. It's the only way here now. So he's and Raikkonen knows that very well indeed.
Well, he's going to have to go the long way round once again. Kimi's positioning that Alpha in exactly the right place there. I think he knows it's coming, and I'll tell you what is coming. As you can see there, the Mercedes pit crew out, Valtteri Bottas into the pit lane, and Sebastian Vettel. They might have done the dummy down at Ferrari. No, they haven't, because Sebastian Vettel is coming in too, and that is a very neat move indeed by Ferrari, because by pitting Sebastian Vettel then, that
they're not ready for him.
Well, it kept Bottas stationary for longer, but they weren't ready, Martin, with the tyres, and whatever ground they made up by coming in when they did, they then lost by a very lengthy pit stop, 6.1 seconds. Vettel was stationary for.
The tyres weren't unwrapped out of the blankets. They just weren't ready for him. I hope they're nailed on properly.
Well, we'll soon see. But that could have been a brilliant move there, because when Vettel pulled in, Bottas was absolutely
had to hold him.
had to hold him, losing time.
But you could see they were sort of preparing the rig, and then all of a sudden you could see the red nose of the Ferrari in the pit lane, imminent.
So it was a very late call, Karun Chandok.
Yeah, it really was. I was watching it, and as you said, Martin, the guys that come out to just move the airlines, it looked like initially, and then mechanics came running out already when Vettel was in the pit lane. No such dramas for Leclerc. They are ready and present for him. Hard tyres going on, so Ferrari have shown their hand. But I think it's a massive misjudgment on the Vettel side, because he's ended up behind Norris, Raikkonen and Gasly. So that gap wasn't there for him to pit at that stage.
Yeah, so Sebastian Vettel suffering now and stuck behind the Red Bull and the Alfa Romeo. Neat stop for Charles Leclerc, as we can watch once again. Look, they were still running out with the tyres when Sebastian Vettel was there and stationary. And that's not what they normally train for. down at Ferrari. Very unusual not to see the tyres there ready and waiting when the driver comes in, and they are utterly furious with themselves in that pit crew because their man was stationary for 3 times longer than he would normally have wanted to be. Now,
Gasly gone already.
I was going to say,
dispatched, I should say, for Vettel.
Come on, push hard. Come on.
Tyres are good. Tyres are still good.
Copy.
well, Hamilton's got a new. Hamilton's got a new lease of life, Paul di Resta.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was just going to come and say to you, Crofty. I'd heard it before, a lap before, and they're saying go. But what's happened since then? Already they've had to tell him to try and reduce the pace a bit because pushing that hard has put the temperature outside the window again.
Yeah, I wonder if he's got the message, though, because we can see the pit strategy battle here with Hamilton still to pit. It was at about 16%. It's now at 22%. As into the pits comes Kimi Räikkönen, and that now frees up Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, but it really compromised Vettel because the pit entry is the same apex as the very fast turn 9, and Vettel had to get out of it and wait for Kimi to take the tighter line.
So 26% chance of Lewis Hamilton overtaking his teammate Valtteri Bottas. If he is slowing down a bit, it's still keeping him on course to leapfrog his teammate in the next round of pit stops. Well, when he next comes in, 2.6 seconds stationary for Räikkönen. That's a decent pit stop for him, and it brings him back out into this race in 15th place ahead of Romain Grosjean. Martin.
Bottas has now lapped Magnussen and relapped him, so he's now clear to chase after Leclerc. Hamilton leads, of course, having not stopped.
Lewis Hamilton leading this race for the first time since he won it in 2016, and already Charles Leclerc in this race so far has led in Austria more times today than this man, Sebastian Vettel, has in his entire career. Vettel, a few laps ago, getting past Pierre Gasly after his pit stop delay brought him back out behind the Red Bull.
So it confirms, doesn't it? You know, qualifying, especially if they'd have both been on the front row, the two Ferraris, taking the soft tyre for Q2 for their starting tyre hasn't hurt them at all because everybody has to react to those early pit stops.
The ones that haven't reacted so far, Hamilton and Verstappen, going that much longer and haven't pitted yet. Lando Norris hasn't pitted either in his McLaren, and neither has Pierre Gasly. Sergio Perez at Racing Point up into the points now, courtesy of others pitting. And once again, the Racing Point drivers, Perez and Stroll, going that much longer than you would normally expect in their first stints in their bid to salvage a poor qualifying into a points return.
Bottas will be getting the hurry up because Hamilton will overcut him. He will go longer, he's going faster, and so Bottas needs to turn it up. Oh, really bumping and using that rather ungainly looking yellow curve there to arrest the slide of the car, putting some lateral load in there for good measure.
Antonio Giovinazzi was running up in the points places, has pitted and is back out again on the track now in 10th. This is Hamilton into turn 1. Oh, that wasn't deliberate, that was it? Got all crossed up into the Niki Lauda curve, and the curve maybe coming to his aid. Now, you would imagine for Gasly, these tyres, they are. So Pierre Gasly now stopping, and I'm just looking to see where Giovinazzi and Räikkönen are. They're just coming around the final corner now. Also Lando Norris stopping as well. Norris will come out ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. Gasly has the inside line here. Can he get back out onto the track ahead of Kimi Räikkönen? No, he can't. The Alpha goes through, and his teammate, Räikkönen's teammate, Giovinazzi, stuck behind the Haas there of Romain Grosjean as he now pulls out from behind the rear wing of the black and gold Haas and takes 14th place. So the stop for Gasly brings him back out behind Kimi Räikkönen. The stop for Norris has him ahead of Kimi at the moment.
Hamilton 19.6 seconds ahead of Bottas. That's pretty much on the numbers for a pit stop, isn't it? If Hamilton pitted right now, they'd be side by side, I reckon, as he exited the pits.
So, with Valtteri Bottas lapping a 109.251 on the last lap, and Lewis Hamilton a 109.215. What do you do at Mercedes? Do you keep Hamilton out just that little bit longer, or do you're running the risk, obviously, of the tyres dropping off a bit, or do you pit him now when there's a 29, maybe a third of a chance of Hamilton overtaking his teammate?
Well, they can still do very low 1-minute 9s. I guess they'll hang on to it. Once he can't do that, they'll pit him.
Nico Hülkenberg pits. in his Renault, comes back out onto the track behind Romain Grosjean, ahead of Kvyat and Stroll, who has now pitted for Racing Point, and is the Toro Rosso very much in his sights.
9.8 for Hamilton in free air.
Check my wing, I think. I feel like I might have lost it down for us.
Okay, copy, we're looking.
Yeah. That will be the alarming lap time, Martin, be it tyres or wing level, that might just have Mercedes scampering out into the pit lane. And well, I'm not saying Lewis Hamilton needs a new front wing, but he wants them to have a look at it, because he's losing the ability to corner at speed.
Hamilton now only Verstappen now only 7 seconds behind Hamilton. He's definitely had some great pace through this phase and really beginning to turn that round again after such a poor start. They're top 5 at the moment. They're coming at it in totally different ways, but they're going to end up in the same place.
And the man that is lapping the fastest in the top 5 at the moment, Sebastian Vettel, the only one in the 108s. Now, whether that was courtesy of some DRS, able to lap Kevin Magnussen, which he's just done, I'm not quite sure. But certainly Vettel's pace will be making him smile at the moment. Paul di Resta, down to you.
Yeah, a lot of chat, Crofty, on Hamilton's front wing. He thinks he's picked up a bit of damage, and then they're saying, OK, we'll try and fix it at the stop, and he's saying, I'm losing a lot of time, so I think he's going to be in the pits before you know it.
Yeah, and it's about a dozen seconds, a good clean new nose on the car, so that'll really hurt him. Is it the tyres? I mean, his front wing looks fine, looks absolutely fine from the distance we can see, but whether he's cracked a main spar or ripped something off underneath, of course, we don't know, but he certainly feels he has.
He is, every lap here, he is losing the chance to leapfrog his teammate in the pits, as Perez now comes into the pits.
Sit front wing.
Hey, firm. Same as FP1. We'll try and sort it at the stop.
Well, I'm losing time.
Yeah, I wonder if he's got a bit of debris in between the elements on that. I don't think he broke his front wing in FP1. He was one of the few that didn't. As we just see a replay here of Sebastian Vettel's pit stop.
Oh, look at that.
What, yeah.
The mechanic with the wheel in his hand as Bottas launched.
That was a metre away from a mechanic getting hit by a Formula 1 car. So look, here are the Mercedes crew. That front wing is standing by. A new front wing is standing by. Karun Chan, up down to you.
Yeah, Crofty, this is going to be really tricky for Lewis, isn't it? Because the gap over Vettel, 24 seconds. If they've got to do the wing, there's a real chance he could end up behind Sebastian here.
That's a very good point.
And I tell you something, Vettel is net ahead of Verstappen now. If Verstappen pitted.
Box.
Change wing.
Hey, firm, we're going to do that.
Pit at
So they are going to change the front wing as well. So whatever's gone wrong on that front wing, Lewis Hamilton can't run it for any longer in this race. That's going to put him down the order a little bit after he's made his stop. Max Verstappen still to stop at the moment as well. He'll take over the lead of this race when Lewis Hamilton pits. Because his lap times at the moment, I don't think they want to be bringing him in, although the Ferrari is starting on fresher tyres, of course, to reel him in somewhat. The Ferrari Vettel, I should say.
Whatever's broken in that front wing has been costing him 3/4 to a second per lap.
And the 3 laps that it's taken them to work out whether they need to change it or not has cost Hamilton dear. Off goes the old front wing. Sebastian Vettel now coming round turn 9. On goes the new front wing. At 80 kilometres an hour, Lewis Hamilton will now start to trundle down the pit lane as Sebastian Vettel blasting out of the final corner here at round about 130 miles an hour. Makes his way along that main straight. There is Sebastian Vettel through the Lauda curve and a long way towards turn 2 and 3. Before we see Lewis Hamilton coming out off the pit lane after his pit stop. So costly.
Good effort from the Mercedes team. 11 seconds it was showing as the total pit stop time.
But even so, very costly indeed, and Sebastian Vettel being told to get a move on by his team, setting a new fastest lap of the race. The chase is on now for Hamilton against Vettel, and leading this race, Max Verstappen, who always felt he had a chance of leading this race, but a very poor start. Well, the anti-stall kicked in and the car got bogged down. Has seen him take 31 laps to get back into the lead of the race, but he hasn't stopped yet, remember.
Verstappen is only 17 seconds ahead of Vettel. He'll lose a place now that he's pitting.
But we'll be on much fresher tyres at the end of this race to come back, of course, at Sebastian Vettel. He should, though, be ahead of Lewis Hamilton at this stage, given Hamilton's delayed pit stop. This is lap 22, so we're looking at 9 laps ago. Did Lewis Hamilton damage his front wing going over some of those curbs, Martin?
Max is in and out while we're watching this. And, well, we've seen Lewis really pushing it hard, haven't we, against that turn 1 curb. I was more looking at the back end of the car for the transmission, to be honest, and listening to it. But certainly something's cracked. I mean, you couldn't see anything, you know, visibly broken or completely missing, could you?
So Verstappen in and out. There he is. He's ahead of Hamilton, but he is behind Sebastian Vettel, behind Valtteri Bottas, and behind the, once again, race leader, Charles Leclerc. The top 5 then have all made their pit stops. Behind them come Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo, yet to pit and running 6th and 7th. Lando Norris running a very handy 8th at the moment. That's a net 6th, ahead of Kimi Raikkonen and Pierre Gasly. Alex Albon down in 11th place at the moment, started right at the back. He hasn't made his pit stop. Giovinazzi and Perez, Hülkenberg and Stroll have. Still waiting to see Romain Grosjean and Danny Kvyat in the pit lane as well. Grosjean's still going on those medium tyres, while his teammate pitted, well, I think he wanted to pit about 2 laps into this race.
So Bottas is the meat in a Ferrari sandwich at the moment. Leclerc 4 seconds ahead of him, but despite that awful pit stop, Vettel only 5.3 behind Bottas and only 9.4 off the lead.
And this is Gasly and Raikkonen. Now we've seen these two really going for it so far this afternoon. Guess what? Gasly's finally got his man, Martin. It's taken him about 20 laps longer than he would have wanted, but he's finally got past Kimi Raikkonen, it was, into turn 4.
Sainz has had a good run from the back of the field, hasn't pitted yet, but is currently in 6th. Daniel Ricciardo behind him, not having a weekend to remember at all, is he, Danny Ricciardo?
He says that he thinks there's something fundamentally wrong with that Renault car at the moment, just not giving him the pace this weekend that he might have expected.
Okay, so you've got a decent tyre advantage on these guys. Like I say, a lot of people suffering with blisters. Let's watch the peak temps on this stint, then we can push later in the race.
So go for it, Max, young man, I think is the message coming from the Red Bull pit wall there. Christian Horner, he's going to go and charge whatever you tell Max Verstappen. He's just one of those drivers, but what do you reckon you can do from here?
Well, let's see. I mean, he's got between 10 and 8 lap better tyres than the cars ahead of him. So, you know, by going that bit longer, we're able to obviously give him a better set of tyres for the remainder of this Grand Prix. And it looks like maybe the Mercedes were a bit heavier on that tyre in the last stint, so you know, this race has still got a long way to go. And
when you do get, if you can get up to the top 3, how much longer can you run behind them in air that's getting ever hotter? Are you having cooling issues, or have you got it right this weekend?
We seem to be okay at the moment. I mean, brakes up, getting a workout round here. I mean, Pierre following Raikkonen that hard obviously gave his brakes a bit of a hammering, but as the fuel load comes off, the cars get lighter, that becomes less of an issue.
Anything reported in from Pierre Gasly?
No, he's obviously asking for more power, usual stuff, but no, now he's just got to get his head down and try and get after Norris ahead while looking after his brakes and tyres.
Thanks ever so much, Christian. And onwards we go then. Leclerc leads Bottas, leads Vettel, leads Verstappen, leads Hamilton. Sainz and Ricciardo haven't pitted yet. Interestingly, Lando Norris came in for his stop, Martin. I didn't initially catch the tyres that he was on, but he's running the medium compound, is Lando Norris, of which he had a brand new set. So McLaren think they can go soft medium until the end of this race. And I hope that's the right call, otherwise the last 10 laps or so could get a bit harem-scarum for Lando Norris, who had all the adventures in the last few laps at Paul Ricard, of course.
So I'm hearing that Vettel did come in as expected, but there was a radio issue between... sorry, have you just said this?
No, I haven't. I've just seen the message, but...
Yeah, there's a radio issues to the mechanic, so the mechanics didn't get that information as Leclerc popped in another fastest lap. He fancies himself 26 World Championship points this afternoon, doesn't he?
I rather get that feeling. It's like Bahrain all over again. He just looks so composed and in control out in front. I hope from here on I should say, for Charles Leclerc's sake, that we don't get a repeat of Bahrain. That was very cruel indeed. He finished on the podium, one of 3 third-place finishes he's had this season, but it could so easily have been the win had it not been for those engine problems.
So top 5 have all pitted. Just about to talk about Lewis. I thought he was going to tell us for himself, but so Lewis's last 2-3 laps have not been that fast, although he's just done a personal best first sector. Maybe he's just treating the tyres a little bit gently in the beginning, but so he runs 20 seconds off the lead now, does Lewis Hamilton, in 5th place.
And there are 13 seconds between the top 4, all of whom are lapping. Well, I say the 2nd, 3rd and 4th lapping pretty much the same, and then Charles Leclerc is going a 10th or a couple of tenths faster. Look at that race weekend attendance, 203,000 people.
So Lewis, current race forecast is for the field to bunch towards the end of the race. So you pull up towards the back of Leclerc. So just make sure we're there at the end of the race. There could be opportunities.
203,000 people here this weekend, mainly wearing orange. It seems to be the colour of the Red Bull Ring this weekend, and if Formula One is in a crisis, nobody told the fans here. It's been a brilliant atmosphere from start to finish, and we're getting a very, very good race indeed, which, as you just heard from Peter Bonington, the race engineer for Lewis Hamilton, has got a long way to go yet, and we might just see these fields converging in the last few laps.
Well, he's probably thinking there then that Leclerc's tyres are 8 laps older than ours. And it's going to come to us. Stay patient. Keep the lap times pumping in. It's not all over.
Yeah, great festival feel, Martin, to the Red Bull Ring this weekend. And in 2 weeks' time, we'll have yet another festival of Formula One as well, as we all head off to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. I hope you can join us. If you're not coming to Silverstone, there are a couple of tickets left. I don't think many. Record ticket sales so far. If the sun shines like this, there is nowhere in the world you want to be than Silverstone on British Grand Prix weekend. On board with Lando Norris, 8th fastest at the moment. Daniel Ricciardo is the car ahead. Ricciardo hasn't stopped yet, neither has Norris's teammate Carlos Sainz, running those medium compound tyres, all part of the McLaren strategy from the beginning. They think that will give Norris the pace for a decent top 6 finish. Right, let's head down to Karun.
Yeah, just looking at this race here, guys, it's really strange, isn't it, that Renault have left Ricciardo out for so long. I'm trying to work out what they're trying to do, because we're really deep into the Grand Prix on that first set of tyres, and his pace isn't great.
Yeah. A 1:10.1 on the last lap. Maybe hoping for a safety car, not quite sure. Ricciardo really starting to struggle, as you can see there, with traction coming out of turn 3. So we'll just stay with this battle for a few more moments and see if Lando Norris can, lick the envelope and send it down the inside, or maybe try a parcel delivery around the outside. Either way, it didn't get delivered on that particular occasion. Danny Ricciardo doing the defending. Paul di Resta at Sky Race Control.
Yeah, just Hamilton getting told by the team it was turn 10 damage to something, so keep an eye out on the screens if that's where they're going to run wide, because it looks like that's where they're picking it up. Team saying just a cracked front wing.
Thanks, Paul. 11.9 seconds between the top 4 now, and Max Verstappen starting to get a bit closer to Sebastian Vettel, which will be interesting to see when he gets close enough to try and if he gets close enough to try and go for a few moves, where the Red Bull has an advantage over the Ferrari in terms of pace to try and force a way past, because the Ferrari, very slippery, of course, in a straight line.
So at about 150 miles an hour. What is that, 250 Ks?
There goes Lando Norris down the inside. And I tell you what, Daniel Ricciardo cut him off in his prime there, and Norris got a bit compromised in doing so. Couldn't quite make that move stick, and that's got Pierre Gasly thinking, oh, there might be an opportunity for myself here to take 8th place. Into turn 4 we go, and there's room on that inside if he can get some good traction, but Norris moving across to cover it. It's just proving a little bit difficult at the moment for Norris to get past Daniel Ricciardo, and it's causing him to look in his wing mirrors a bit more than I think he fancied.
So yeah, those kind of speeds, 150 miles an hour, they're generating around, let's say, 2,500 kilograms of downforce. So 800 kilogram car with the driver, that means you could drive along the ceiling. You got way more downforce than weight. My point here is that a cracked front wing, that's why we can't see it, but that's why Lewis Hamilton will certainly feel it. The amount of downforce those front and rear wings and all of the pieces on the side of the car and the underbodies are generating.
You're saying that if Lewis Hamilton with a cracked front wing tried to drive across the ceiling, he'd make a rather large dent in the sofa because he probably wouldn't manage it.
I wouldn't think he'd lost that much, but it was certainly costing him. You'd start to slide in front and understeer, not enough front wing, and eventually I assume it would break anyway.
Someone said to you, Martin Brundle, would you like to drive a Formula One car on a ceiling and upside down, given that the laws of physics says it's possible? Would you say yes?
I've done the upside down bit a couple of times, so I'd welcome the ceiling, to be honest, yes. Give it a go.
It would be a novel approach to your next drive in a Formula One car. On board with Pierre Gasly, all four tyres planted on terra firma at the moment. Lando Norris just eking away a little bit in the last lap and a half. Just watching the battle out in front. Verstappen now under 2.5 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel. 30 laps to go. It's boiling down to a decent scrap between those two.
Those black lines you can see, they're just going through. That's from the drift cars on their rather short track. You may have seen Rachel in those earlier on in the weekend, so if you wonder what those weird black stripes are.
There goes Lando Norris. No drifting in a Formula One car out of turn 3. He's a lot closer to Daniel Ricciardo here. Ricciardo hasn't pitted yet. He might have to yield the place, and he does so. Lando Norris moves his McLaren back up into 7th place, and yes, is the reaction from Will Joseph on the pit wall.
Gasly's got some blisters on the inside of his right front as well, for good measure.
This is going to be a nice personal battle now for Daniel Ricciardo, isn't it? Keeping the Red Bull, the car he left last year, behind him for as long as he possibly can.
So I wonder if we can see the heavy blisters on the right front. It's a bit of a passenger, that tyre, through some of these corners. But I wonder if Verstappen might find himself, when he's on the harder compound, of course, might find himself in trouble. We saw this, of course, on the Mercedes last weekend, didn't we?
We certainly
front
did.
Blisters.
Carlos Sainz, sorry Martin, Carlos Sainz has finally pitted from 6th in the McLaren. Just wondering where he's going to come back out into this field. Behind, I think, Lance Stroll, down in 14th place. So he's got 4 or 5 places to make up on fresher tyres towards the end of this race, and he comes back into the field, Carlos Sainz, just at the back of that particular pack. Karun, down to you.
I didn't expect you to be coming down to me, Crofty.
Apologies.
Sorry. But yeah, no, just look at that blister there on the inside front on Gasly's tyre. He also had that. I've just popped down a Red Bull actually to find out. But he also had that on the first set, I think, earlier in the race. So for whatever reason, either the style he's driving, the line he's driving, or whatever, but for some reason he seems to be developing that blister on the inside front, maybe setup, on his car more than on Max's car.
Yeah, and it's the hard compound tyre, so it's the most durable one out there. Well, hopefully we'll be on board with Max at some point.
Right, Paul di Resta at Sky Race Control.
I've just been quietly listening here, Crofty. I can't quite understand. I'm listening to, the two Ferraris team radio. I'm listening to Verstappen. Lewis is complaining quite heavily about the amount of lifting course, 400 metres, and the team are saying everyone else is in the same situation. I haven't heard anybody say the Ferraris are a temperature. So I think if Mercedes were at front and the other guys were pressuring them, we'd be really up against it. It's nice to see other people in control and other people's simulations getting it right.
Absolutely.
So you think that's lift and coast for temperatures? Verstappen does a new fastest lap rather than fuel consumption?
100% for temperatures, and they're saying that temperature has increased more than they thought on the ambient side, so that's what's pushing them through the upper limit.
Fantastic job, mate. Lando, if you can, just hold Ricciardo in your DRS. Hold him to allow him to have DRS as long as he can't pass you.
In like forever?
Why? Okay, so they're wanting Ricciardo to be held in the DRS. Why would McLaren want that?
To hold Gasly up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't want Gasly to get part. That's probably a play for That might even be a play for his teammate Sainz as well down the road, possibly, although Sainz is actually quite a long way adrift of that. But it might be, don't let Gasly pass Ricciardo, then he won't be coming after you forever.
It's almost like asking a goat to remain within jabbing distance of a T-Rex, that, isn't it? You know, just let him have the possibility of overtaking you there, but make sure he doesn't, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Another new fastest lap for Verstappen, now 9 seconds off the lead.
Yeah,
it's coming alive.
He's coming at Sebastian Vettel here, and it's only going to be a couple more laps till he gets DRS as well. Karun, to you.
Yeah, I was just looking at that, Coffee, because the last couple of laps, he's taken 3, 4, 3 tenths, you know, the last few laps, in fact. This time round, a full half second out of Sebastian Vettel. The gap now only 1.6. It was, guys, over 4 seconds after the stops. And, let's not forget, Verstappen's tyres are 10 laps newer than Sebastian Vettel's.
He is still very much a force to be reckoned with, I think, in this race. Charles Leclerc, as we see Pierre Gasly getting past Daniel Ricciardo.
That's what McLaren hoped was not going to happen.
Yeah, but it's did. If Verstappen can clear Sebastian Vettel quite quickly, he's then onto the tail of Valtteri Bottas. Bottas is about just under 4 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Leclerc is either controlling this pace beautifully, Martin, or he hasn't got enough pace to pull too far ahead of the Mercedes. But we'll find out in about 10 laps.
7.8 seconds covers the top 4. Hamilton's problems, long pit stop and lack of pace means he's beginning to drop away now, and it's a 4-horse race and 4 horses that are galloping towards each other.
And there is Sebastian Vettel making the climb towards turn 3 with Verstappen right behind him. He's tantalisingly 2 or 3 tenths away from some DRS assistance here. Both of these drivers gaining on Valtteri Bottas as well. And Mercedes having to lift and coast in these oppressively hot temperatures, and overheating brakes and tyres as well. 35 degrees the air temperature, the track temperature officially 50 degrees, but I think that's a little bit shaded, that sensor. We're running in at least the mid 50 degrees if you're exposed to the sunshine at the moment.
Charlie Leclerc just had a bit of a dismal lap at 1.95.
Max, we have a significant pace advantage over Vettel in turn 1, so use that.
But he had to get past Kubica, but they're about to catch a bunch of cars that Stroll, Sainz, Hülkenberg, Perez, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen and Ricciardo. So the leaders are coming up against quite a string of back markers in the next 2 or 3 laps.
So if Verstappen and Vettel can continue their pace at the moment, well, either the Red Bull or the Ferrari will be ahead when they get onto the tail of the Mercedes and the other Ferrari as well. Think of this race as like one big accordion, ladies and gentlemen. We have opened it wide to give it the fullest possible amount of air, and then we're slamming it shut as the cars come together to make some sweet music.
Second fastest man on the track last time around, Carlos Sainz, down in 13th place with the fresh tyres on that McLaren. He's got to fancy some World Championship points from the back of the grid.
Absolutely. Laps so far: Albon, Grosjean, Kvyat, Russell, Magnussen and Kubica, who's sadly for him running last, and Daniel Ricciardo finally gets to get rid of the tyres he started this race on and can come in for his pit stop in this race, and he'll come back out behind the racing points of Lance Stroll. And here goes Max Verstappen now with DRS on the main straight towards Sebastian Vettel. Pace advantage into turn 1. Verstappen is able to brake that much later than the Ferrari, and now he is very much in the slipstream. The man who started on the front row with the Ferrari ahead that started in P9. He's getting a great slipstream up towards turn 3. He's not quite close enough to make a move into that corner, but with more DRS to come, because there are 3 zones here, not 2. Is he going to make a go of it? Down into turn 4. He's going to have to go round the outside. Sebastian Vettel manages to cover him off. Verstappen looks to switch back early down the inside, and I tell you what, he's going wheel to wheel down the hill here until Vettel just about covers him off.
Verstappen got so much more grip though, remembering that Vettel came in the pits 10 laps earlier than him. So you can see the advantage that Verstappen's got in the Red Bull. He's suddenly seeing a chance of a podium.
And out in front, Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas starting to get a pace advantage once again.
Come on, mate, let's get it done early. Let's do it.
As here we go, ladies and gentlemen, for Hot Shots Part 2. This is Verstappen on Vettel once more into turn 1. He's just going to have to sit behind the Ferrari once more. Now it's the blast, isn't it? From the Lauda curve all the way up towards turn 3. Verstappen in hot pursuit, 200 miles an hour, and he's gaining on Sebastian Vettel under braking. Wants to put himself in a great position.
And he is super tidy through the apex of what's turn 3. Somehow he's got to get it down the inside, the right-hand side.
Well, here he goes down the outside once again, but he's going to try and switch as he did on that last lap. Vettel's got him covered on that particular occasion. I'm with you, Martin. He needs to go inside early to get that move done.
Yeah, Vettel's a bit too wise for that. But they're saying get it done early, Max, because they know that his car will start to overheat in these conditions.
How many more laps can he run so closely behind the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel? Out in front, it's a 4.3 second gap between Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas. Leclerc just moving ahead once more, and he's getting his foot down to preserve that lead. Right, here comes Verstappen, Hot Shots Part 2, as it were. And there's just a few car lengths in it as through the Lauda curve he's much closer. It's like Hamilton and Rosberg in 2016 all over again on those last few laps, but this time it's a Ferrari and it's a Red Bull providing the excitement. Verstappen is going to send the Red Bull ring absolutely crazy if he can make this move. And out of turn 3, now he's got a very good chance indeed. There's one car length in it as Verstappen goes round the outside again, and this time before the corner arrives, Max Verstappen is up into the podium positions, and they absolutely love that in the grandstands.
He got such fantastic drive off turn 3, and with the DRS could simply drive past the Ferrari. And now he can set about Bottas, who's 3 seconds up the road.
Right, you can hear the cheers all the way around the Red Bull ring for that.
Get it, boys.
Yes, boys, come on.
Yes, boys, indeed.
And Sebastian Vettel is pitting. So Verstappen's just got past Sebastian Vettel into the pits for a new set of soft compound tyres, I would imagine, comes Sebastian Vettel. Right, it's a free pit stop, Martin.
Yeah, that'll bring him out. He should be just ahead of Lewis Hamilton with that one, which gives him a chance of the fastest lap. And then if they do start running out of tyres towards the end of the Grand Prix, where's Hamilton? He's long gone, actually, isn't he? But if they do start running out of tyres at the end of the Grand Prix, Vettel will be sitting pretty.
So Ferrari still trying to salvage something from the race and switching Karun Chandhok to plan B.
Yeah, that's right, Coffee. It wasn't a free stop because he obviously gave up track position to Hamilton. So I was watching it, being a little bit surprised, but I think what you later said, they've tried to roll the dice and think, well, let's do a 2-stop and see if other people get into trouble. However, 20 laps on a new set of soft tyres against Hamilton on 20-lap old hard tyres, 8 seconds between them, he should catch back up, shouldn't he? Well,
he should. 25 laps, say Pirelli, for the life of these soft tyres, but obviously with less fuel on board, the car's a bit lighter. That might help. That's going to be a cracking battle as well. As we see this replay once more, Verstappen on Vettel, and it was that exit out of turn 3, Martin. The move was made before the braking boards came into play.
Yeah, he had so much more grip, didn't he, on the apex, so he could pick up the throttle early. He rotated his car earlier and just got great drive off the corner, and Vettel could do nothing about it. Verstappen is now just over 1.5 seconds behind Bottas.
Yeah, it's not taking him long to catch Bottas, Paul.
Yeah, well, all that's gone on, Crofty. What I was going to talk about is Carlos Sainz up to P9 and charging his way towards Kimi Raikkonen. Gasly and Norris not much further up the road as well with those fresh tyres.
And I did fancy Carlos Sainz for a points finish today because the pace is there in that McLaren car. And after Friday, he was saying to me, I'm a bit disappointed because I'm taking the engine penalty, but I'm really stoked by the pace that we have in this McLaren car at the moment. And it's great to see, not just at Paul Ricard, but here as well, McLaren bouncing back.
Let's kill it.
So off he goes, and there's Valtteri Bottas, and there is Max Verstappen down the main straight. Bottas had a bit of DRS, didn't he, to get past Lance Stroll?
And so should, I imagine, Verstappen now.
Yep, the gap
was he in the zone? No, he wasn't. He didn't quite catch it, did he, against the back? He will, will he? He won't. He wants to try and stay behind him when he crossed that white line. See if he gets DRS or not. See if he can open his rear wing. We'll see now. He did. He stayed. That was quite. Well, it looked to me like very smart thinking. Verstappen knew he needed to be just behind the racing point as they crossed that detection point.
So Verstappen is rewarding those that have made the very long journey from the Netherlands here to the Red Bull Ring at Spielberg this weekend with some great excitement. It's excitement that I'm sure he would not have wanted at the start, and he's making his way back through the field because of that start where the anti-stall kicked in. He got bogged down and lost so many places, but he's on the fringes of the top two now.
He's only 6 seconds off the lead.
I wonder what Charles Leclerc is being told. Just maintain your pace, Charles, everything is okay, or is he being told, yeah, Verstappen's going to be coming at you in a few moments, if and when he can get past Valtteri Bottas. Now, as they crossed the line, there was exactly 1 second difference between Bottas and Verstappen. Bottas had just put in his fastest lap of the race so far, and DRS not quite available for Verstappen, but I dare say it will be on this particular straight here.
It looks like the Red Bull of old, doesn't it, where they can really crank the car in and rotate it around with good front end grip.
Sebastian Vettel has just set a 1:07.7, new fastest lap of the race. Race lap record, by the way, from Kimi Raikkonen last year, a 1:06.9. I dare say that might go the way Sebastian Vettel's charging on the soft tyres.
But Vettel had to pass certainly Grosjean on that lap, maybe even Kubica, so there should be a bit more time than that in it.
And there you can see from the helicopter camera, Bottas and Verstappen going through turns 9 and 10. Hold your breath as a driver there and trust that your car is going to give you the downforce you need and the grip that you need to make it through. And Verstappen just moving into a bit of cooler air if he can, only for a fraction of a second.
So Verstappen's tyres put on lap 31, Bottas on lap 21.
And it's that tyre advantage that's helping Max Verstappen here as the leader Charles Leclerc goes through turn 3, and Valtteri Bottas now right on the tail. Valtteri Bottas just ahead of Max Verstappen, who is right on his tail.
Oh, I'm losing power, guys.
Meanwhile, in the cockpit, all is not well for Max Verstappen, losing power. And I really hope that this is not a terminal problem for Verstappen, who doesn't deserve to have his efforts undone by a technical issue. Paul di Resta, have you been listening to the team radio?
I have been listening and giving him some sensors to clear, going through in the background, so hopefully that'll clear it and let him get on.
Fail 3, fail 03, fail when you can. What? Fail 3, fail 03, fail.
Well, he's pressed that, Martin, and it seems to have done the trick, at least from our vantage point.
Yeah, it's helping Leclerc out at the front. These two squabbling now. Leclerc's making his way through that traffic I told you about.
Here he comes down towards turn 3. Is Verstappen going to go down the inside? Yes, he is, under braking. Max Verstappen manages to clear Valtteri Bottas. He started second in Verstappen. He was down towards position 9 by the end of the first lap, and he is back up to second once again on lap 56. Verstappen, there's no stopping him today.
15 laps to go. Can he catch the leader? He's going to be about 6 seconds behind, I'd imagine. Leclerc has cleared a lot of traffic, though. Verstappen's got to do that, but Leclerc's woken them up.
Yes. All right, this is game on.
Well, they believe at Red Bull that this is possible. And Christian Horner, isn't it great to hear the joy in a Formula One driver's voice when he can pull off moves like that and have an enjoyable afternoon such as this?
Absolutely, he's driving an absolute stonking race in this heat, I tell you, and it's not over yet. So, a few laps left to go. Let's see what we can do in the remaining parts of this race.
So the power issue very clearly there. It looks like it's fixed, Christian.
Yeah, it was an exhaust sensor, so there's so many position switches, changes that these drivers do around the lap. It's amazing they have time to turn the steering wheel, but yeah, so that looks like it's under control at the moment. So let's get a head down and try and get into Leclerc now.
Meanwhile, in position 7, Pierre Gasly has Lando Norris in his sights once again. It's possible that he could still take 6th yet.
Yeah, you know, we're still fighting for that point as well. So Sainz is going pretty quickly behind him, but you know, hopefully Pierre will have better tyre life at the end of the race and can mount an attack on Norris. But it's not going to be long before Leclerc's coming up to him as well.
That's very true. Thanks ever so much, Christian. I won't ask whether Pierre can just hold Charles Leclerc up a bit and help his teammate out.
Interesting comment from Christian there. Not long before Leclerc comes up to him too. Yes. So Leclerc then a personal best on that lap. He's got the message.
Yeah, he has responded.
Angry, feisty young Dutchman coming after him. They've got history, of course, those from back in the karting days, even Leclerc and Verstappen, because they were born 16 days apart.
When you say back in the karting days, it makes it sound like a long time ago. It was 7 years ago, Martin. You and I first started working together all those years ago. But yes, there was a race. You might see some video footage on the World Wide Web of Charles Leclerc saying, "Yeah, he pushed me off," and Max Verstappen, "No, it was a racing incident." Well, I'm sure they will absolutely relish a battle like that if it comes to fruition by the end of this race. Valtteri Bottas settling into 3rd place then and seemingly untroubled at the moment, unlike his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who will know, I'm sure, that Sebastian Vettel's chasing after him at a rate of about half a second a lap faster per lap.
But Leclerc's now doing 7.9s, the same as on the fresh tyres, so very good sort of pace, but it's a 7.7 from Verstappen. He's going to run out of time, isn't he? Leclerc looks like he might have him covered.
Engine 11, engine 1-1, position 5, when you can. It's more performance to the end.
Now, if you're talking heavy metal and you turn it up to 11, that's about the most acceptable volume that's going, and that's what Max Verstappen has been given. Meanwhile, Mercedes saying, sorry Martin, both of their cars suffering the same issue at the moment with overheating.
So he's got 2 Alfa Romeos to get past now, and then the next man up the road will be the leader for Max Verstappen.
Well, there's one of the Alfa Romeos, Giovinazzi. Kimi Raikkonen to come. We say lapping the back markers, but both Alfa Romeos running in the top 10 at the moment. I really hope that Giovinazzi can hold on to a points finish here. Hasn't got a point in Formula 1 yet. One of 3 drivers this season who haven't. Would be lovely to see him break his duck this afternoon after once again getting into Q3. In successive races, he's managed to do that. Out in front, the gap between Leclerc and Verstappen is down to 4.7 seconds, and we have 11 laps to go, and you're going to be trotting off to go and interview the drivers in a few moments. Isn't it great, Martin, that as you leave the commentary box, you're not going to know what order they're going to finish in?
Absolutely, but I am expecting 3 happy drivers on the podium for once.
Well, let's hope so, as Kimi Raikkonen is lapped by Max Verstappen. We can go down to Karun Chandok.
Just look at the times, Crofty. Pierre Gasly could well get lapped by Max Verstappen after being ahead of him on the first lap. That's amazing, isn't it? He's now, what, 57 seconds behind Max in 59 laps. That's an extraordinary difference between the 2 Red Bull drivers today. Carlos Sainz has driven a brilliant race. Paul talked about it before. He's got 16 laps fresher tyres than Gasly and is gently chipping away 4 seconds behind. So McLaren, 6th and 8th at the moment. There's an off chance they could end up with 6th and 7th.
11 laps to go so far on this lap. Verstappen is 5/10, half a second quicker than Leclerc, although Leclerc's done the fastest lap of the fastest sector of anybody in the final sector, but still the gap down to 4.2 seconds now. He's going for it.
What I really love here, Max Verstappen on the hard compound tyre that has been on since his pit stop is still lapping significantly faster than Sebastian Vettel, who pitted far more recently to go onto the soft compound tyre in a bit to chase after Lewis Hamilton and maybe get a fastest lap himself.
Well, remember what I said on the grid, opening on my grid walk, you know, here's a glimpse of the future of F1, the youngest ever front row in Formula 1 at 21 and a bit years old. Well, is it a glimpse or is it more than that? These 2 have been outstanding this afternoon, Leclerc and Verstappen.
In very differing ways as well. And do you know what? If it was a joint vote for driver of the day between Verstappen and Leclerc, I think they both deserve to take that. But I get the feeling that whoever wins the race might just take it, or if the vote goes to anybody in Holland, Verstappen will walk away with it.
We haven't seen a whole lot of young Charlie Leclerc, have we? out front, because he's been there. Look at that. Look, Verstappen's now got sight of him. 3.8 seconds.
The chase is on and has been for a while, and now he's got sight of him. You know what it's like as a driver, Martin. It just gives you that extra impetus, doesn't it? You've been told by the team, yeah, the times are chipping away, but when you can see that rear wing,
yeah, it does inspire you, and you can start measuring yourself off against your rival, like somebody chasing you down a tunnel, though. If you're the one in front, you can't help but peer in your mirrors and see if they're catching you.
It's blistering pace, Max. Keep it up, mate.
yeah, that's what we want to hear. Blistering pace, not blistering tyres. That sorts out all the issues for Formula One. That's what we need. Meanwhile, blistering pace for Sebastian Vettel behind Lewis Hamilton. That gap now down to, what, 2.5 seconds as Leclerc laps Carlos Sainz.
Leclerc's lost half a second to Verstappen in the middle part of this lap, presumably in traffic. The gap's going to be in the low 3s now.
It is 3 seconds exactly, and we're on lap 63 of 71 here at Red Bull Ring. That could not be more different to Paul Ricard 7 days ago. Now Verstappen, I think, gets past Carlos Sainz just that little bit easier along the straight there. He's certainly not being held up through the middle sector, and that's going to help the chase once again for the Red Bull. It has just come alive in the second and third part of this race. Another car gets lapped. Oh, big lock-up for Kevin Magnussen going into turn 4. That Verstappen now drives into the smoke.
Yeah, Magnussen was heading for Leclerc there with his front tyres locked up. But can Charles Leclerc win his first Grand Prix? Well, or will Max Verstappen deny him that?
I don't want to say he's going to or not, but wouldn't it be brilliant to see? Because he deserved it in Bahrain, and it was heartbreaking when that win was taken away from him through no fault of his own whatsoever. Here today, and I'll keep my fingers crossed while I say this, he's not had mechanical issues, and he's showing the world exactly what he can do. But right behind him, the last man to beat Mercedes in a Grand Prix, the old dominating Mercedes-Benz, and that was in Mexico in 2018. So if Leclerc's going to do this, he's going to fend off a mighty adversary, and the gap now 2.6 seconds. And there, Xavier Marcos Padros, the race engineer for Charles Leclerc, and I would imagine as tense and as nervous, and probably more so than the man sat in the cockpit in that Ferrari.
3 lots of traffic coming up, including Verstappen's teammate.
Can Pierre Gasly play a part in this? And we'll talk about why Pierre Gasly could well be lapped by his teammate by the end of the race, long after this race is finished. But could Gasly just play that supporting role to allow his teammate a lunge on the last lap? Surely Ferrari have to fear something like that happening, Martin, for a team that like to have all the bases covered.
Yes, but Gasly is duty-bound to get out of the way, certainly within 3 blue flags at the worst. This is a nice, easy pass of a back marker for Verstappen and DRS for good measure. And
that gap is now 1.9 seconds between Leclerc and Verstappen, and it's about the same gap between Hamilton and Vettel as well. Paul di Resta at Sky Race Control.
Yeah, and Gasly's just been given the message, Leclerc within 2 seconds, Verstappen's within 2 seconds, Leclerc coming up behind you.
Martin Brundle, I think you've got to head off to the podium. Do enjoy the walk down there, and do enjoy talking to what could be the second youngest podium in Formula One history at 24 years and 156 days. They can see this battle unfolding in front of their very eyes, and they have done for quite a few laps now. The gap, 1.2 seconds between Leclerc and Verstappen. He's had it, not easy, Paul, for so long, but he's been in control for so long, Charles Leclerc. Now he's got to switch his mindset to a completely different zone, because it's all about defence from here on in.
It is all about defence, and there's Verstappen within a second. He's a tenth outside that DRS, and what Leclerc has to do is get by Gasly. Of course, Gasly's going to give Verstappen the wave by at the crucial point in the lap. Leclerc needs to get it done very early.
Well, Leclerc needs to do it, doesn't he, on the run down to turn 4 here. There's the blue lights flashing for Pierre Gasly to warn him that Charles Leclerc's coming, but he's not in a position to get past that Red Bull. So now, Paul, he's got this middle sector where he's going to be running behind one of the Red Bulls.
The Red Bull is on rails compared to the Ferrari and especially the Mercedes.
Verstappen behind, 1 second.
Leave me alone.
Charles Leclerc wants to do this his way, and he doesn't want to know what the time difference is, because it doesn't actually matter now. It is Verstappen behind Leclerc. The gap is under 1 second. Charles Leclerc can see him in his wing mirrors. He knows that this has been coming for a while.
DRS open.
And DRS assistance down the main straights will push Max Verstappen ever closer towards that Ferrari.